Hello and welcome. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Nick Rohn, Director of Technology for the Asset Leadership Network, and I'm excited for our third and final program in this 2024 Federal Asset Leadership Insights series of web programs that started last week and culminates today. Today's program is a National Institute of Building Sciences Digital Twins 2024 conference preview. So we have Vice President Roger Grant speaking, as well as Kimon Onuma, President of ALN Patron Member ONUMA. And before we get to that program, we just want to thank all our patron members, Jacobs, Mantech, Onuma, ABS Quality Evaluations, and CGI, as well as all our organizational members who make programming like this series possible. And if you're out there wondering if you could work with the ALN too, we would love to hear from you. We really would like to partner with every organization in the world and believe we can bring value. So with that, welcome Mike Bordenero, Executive Director for the ALN.
Hello, Nick, and how are things in Lander, Wyoming?
Oh, excellent. Yes, we've had a very mild winter here, but maybe that'll change as it sounds like it's changing elsewhere in the country right now.
Yeah, Chicago got 4 inches of snow today, so we're in the winter. Roger, how are you doing?
Hi, Mike.
Where are you today?
I'm in DC.
How are things there?
Oh, just fine. Yeah, it's a little chillier today, but weather-wise anyway, otherwise, I guess you could answer that question a lot of different ways, but for
Well,
me, things are just fine. So, yeah.
so thank you for joining us. We're really excited about the Digital Twin Conference, and we're really happy to give you a platform to talk a little bit about NIBS and why digital twins are important to what you're doing. And then we've got your colleague Kimon Onuma, who's going to join in a bit. But why don't you talk just a little bit about what NIBS is, what NIBS does, and that sets up what the digital twin does, conference does.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. Yeah. Well, NIBS is an acronym for the National Institute of Building Sciences. NIBS was created over 50 years ago now by the United States Congress as part of the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1974. And the reason behind NIBS at the time was to help address challenges with building codes and quality and sufficiency in housing, and how the public and the private sector could work together to address challenges in the built environment, how buildings performed was mostly the issue at that time around safety and around quality. But really from there, NIBS has grown to cover safety, security, performance, technology, resilience, all range of issues around how both buildings and infrastructure perform in our physical world, and how the private sector can assist the government sector in really improving the built environment for the public. So it's a pretty broad mandate for NIBS. And I think the other piece about it is embedded in our name, building sciences. The idea is to look at the science behind how things are done so that we can get better outcomes.
Excellent. And as you said, it's a bridge between private public initiatives, and you're a quasi-government organization. Can you explain that and how you work with federal agencies? Because this is a federal program.
Yes. Well, NIBS was originally created by the Congress. we became a nonprofit, and we are not directly funded by the federal government, but we do generate most of our funding by doing project work for the federal government that we get funded from to help address a whole range of issues, challenges, problems, opportunities that exist that the government is trying to deal with, improve outcomes. Maybe probably the most well-known project that we have worked on over, I don't know exactly when it started, but over most of NIBS life has been with the Federal Emergency Management Association, and we've operated the Building Seismic Safety Council, which they funded us to create to bring together engineers, practitioners in seismic safety, and that led to contributing to the National Earthquake Hazard Reduction Program. And the work of the Building Seismic Safety Council directly translates into the codes and standards that are used to improve building safety. ASCE design standard 7 for seismic safety is largely based on work that NIBS has orchestrated through the Building Seismic Safety Council. So that's an example of where the government has an issue, they bring us in to bring practitioners together to address that issue, and then take that work back to the public through the council that was created to operate it. So that's one example of that kind of public-private partnership at work.
Another example is related to digital twins, because I can see your digital twin activity going back to the work you did for the Department of Defense Defense Health System and the VA, and that could be termed digital twin work. How do you see the history of your digital twin activities?
Well, sure. I think a lot of our technology work is related to digital twins ultimately. I mean, we've been doing different projects for the federal government for many years that have attempted to use technology to capture physical systems and improve their performance and how they are installed and managed in buildings. So you're referencing work that we did in the healthcare arena with the Defense Health and with the Veterans Affairs and we worked with Onuma, who Kimon's on here as well, to identify how they planned spaces in military health facilities. They had a system that they use to prepare standardized designs for all kinds of operating rooms, waiting rooms, exam rooms, all the different spaces that are in a medical facility. And we helped them to automate that and turn it into a digital representation. At that time, a building information model, but that's really what underlies a digital twin, is a digital representation of a physical asset that you can then attach more and more information to, such as real-time information about how those components of that space or facility are behaving at any point in time. So yeah, that underlies the digital twin work. NIBS has for a long time been involved in that through what was the Building Smart Alliance that became our BIM Council and is NIBS Digital Technology Council. So we've worked on that for many years, on that challenge, opportunity, however you want to look at it.
Well, the ALN looks at it as being exemplary. We gave that initiative an award, and one of the things from asset management perspective that did is break down the barriers between the facilities and the personal property, the equipment in those medical operating rooms, those waiting rooms. It was both the space and the chairs, the tables, the equipment, the electrical load, the water requirements, and
Mm-hmm.
to that as how we promote um, an umbrella approach to all assets and not separate them out as facilities and fleet and equipment. It's got to be thought of holistically.
Yeah, and it underlies an approach for asset owners, which is identify your requirements in a way that you can track those requirements from planning through design, through construction, and into operations. And then you can use that framework to be clear about what it is you need to get in your facility, and then also be able to validate that you're getting it, and then use it to ultimately operate the facility once it's up and running, and you know, even then over time as it gets modified and added onto, repurposed, etc.
That's why we're happy to be working with you, is because we see that as an asset management framework. That's the umbrella approach, the governance approach. And we're happy that some of our members are presenting together at the conference. But before we talk with Kimon about that, why don't you give us an overview of the conference, what you see as being some of the good elements of it, and what you're hoping the outcomes will be.
Sure, sure, Mike. Yeah, the conference, you know, we were, I mean, NIBS is trying to look at innovation and how we can uh, help to foster innovation in the building industry and building sciences. That you know, we have a great industry here, but we also have plenty of opportunities to improve and challenges to address. So when we can innovate, when we can apply technology, we can try to get ahead of the curve and get more done and achieve better outcomes. And you know, everyone knows we have plenty of challenges that we need to address to make buildings and infrastructure safer, more secure, um, more energy efficient, less, you know, utilize less carbon, be more resilient. And so we wanted to think about, um, we've been focusing on BIM and how to have digital representations of assets, but how can we take that to the next level and think about once we have those, because we're making progress. There's plenty to still be done, but we're making progress on using BIM and having a foundation um, to represent the physical world in a digital way. So how could we advance that further and use it to look ahead towards operations? How do we integrate design, construction, and operations together? Digital twin is a great way to do that. And so we wanted to have a place to explore this further, to bring together um, owners and what their needs are, and consultants that provide services to them to help them meet their needs, and then also technology companies that are, you know, working with owners and consultants to provide the tools that they can use to better accomplish things, and also to think about the standards that we still need to continue to have to make everything work together efficiently, and to be able to share things effectively. So we wanted to really bring that whole dialogue together. And I think when you look at the agenda for the event, we got some great submissions from lots of very, very talented and qualified individuals and firms, and we have all the makings there for a great event to address each and every one of those topic areas. So I think, you know, there's a lot teed up for us in December, and it's going to be really interesting.
Well, we can't preview all of the events, but we do have Kimon Onuma, who's involved in a couple of them. So welcome, Kimon.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Roger. That's a great
Hi, Kimon.
overview.
Thank you.
So what do you have
So,
set up
mhm.
for the Digital Twin Conference, Kimon?
I have a few things I could share on screen. It's easier for me to talk through the visuals if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. So as Roger mentioned, it's the Digital Twins 2024 conference at the National, what's it called? National Harbor, right?
Yes.
Near Washington, D.C. And it's pretty exciting because it's the first one, first digital twin conference. And there are there are a lot of sessions like Roger mentioned, really exciting kind of lineup. We're kind of at the very end. There's two sessions that are interesting for us. One is the BIM Storm, which is with Anto Budiarjo, Zara Gorbani, Jay Klein, Phil Verley, and myself. And we'll be kind of following up on what we started last May at the NIBS Building Innovations Conference, which was a BIM storm that we looked at many different things. In fact, I won't go into the details here, but there's a lot of material that was kind of collected. If I zoom in here, you'll see just the density of things that happened before the event, after the event, during the event. And then even after that, we've been doing quite a bit of continuous kind of development and prototyping and testing with many different groups, including specifically relating to digital twins, working with the interoperable building box, which is an open standard way of connecting digital twins. But since you mentioned also the work that NIBS did with Defense Health Agency and VA, what's interesting to me about NIBS is the breadth of domain interests that are there, right? We're covering a lot of different things. Obviously, in our world, we're focusing a lot about BIM and all of that, but there's other parts of this, the hazards and all this stuff that happens in the world. And even before the term digital twins, I think it's really about connecting systems together. There's many different systems in this world that even natural systems, the environment. There are obviously buildings, there are assets, there are trains and cars and people that are working throughout in the supply chains, and also the business side of how does all this stitch together. And every single owner that we've worked with through NIBS and through others, they're looking for how to connect their different information systems together. So if you take the term digital twin out, it's essentially that. How do we get one system talking to the other? Because we want to save energy. Well, how do you save energy? You have to design and construct, and you have to manage and operate. So it kind of spans the life cycle. It sounds impossible, but the paper that I was involved with as a co-author and also the data framework lead on for the NIBS Digital Twins for the built environment kind of sets the stage of what are the different things that can happen relating to digital twins and as it relates to the built environment, which is interesting, right? We're trying to bring these two worlds together. Digital twins have existed long before buildings. The building side came in, for example, in the aircraft industry. They're, Boeing and whatever, they were building jets before they flew them. It's the same thing. How do we collect information and then simulate and then use it throughout the life cycle?
Okay,
And that's where we're.
That's great. And I want to interject an asset leadership network approach on this. And what you're talking about is the need for an organization to develop a business process model. Basically, how are we going to operate? We now have the tools and processes to be able to deal with the entire organization. Previously, we had to divide it up into different categories, fleet, facilities. We were able to advance by division. Now with the tools, we're able to advance by collecting everything together, and having a governance approach for all of this is important. And we believe that asset management gives a framework for an organizational approach for a business process model of this scale.
Absolutely. And that's such an important piece, because the digital twin is not just a 3D model and data associated. There are rules, business rules that are sitting on top of it, which goes back into asset management. And it's really being able to tell the story. It's almost like when you go into ChatGPT and try and prompt it with a question, you need to know how to ask the right question. And you need to know what kind of story you're going to tell, right? So you could say, well, we have these goals for sustainability, or for reducing cost, or reducing energy, or making the occupants more comfortable. There's a reason behind all that. As a hospital, I want to be able to support the patients and be successful and all that. As a school, I'm trying to educate. Well, there are things that need to happen to make that successful, and it's all a moving target. And if you can describe the business process, and that's the part that is often lost, because as an architect, we kind of get, putting my architect hat on now, we kind of get the, oh, the owner wants to build a school. Okay, we get this list of things, and yeah, you can build a school and design it. Okay, great. But why are you building that school? Well, because the student count is going up or down or whatever. Your demand is changing. There are business rules within that. When you capture those business rules, then you can be more precise and deliberate about the outcome. And you can also use those business process rules to feed into AI, which is kind of the next thing relating to this, right? If you can capture them, if you can describe your rules, you can use it there. And that's what's exciting, I think, about this conference too. We're bringing together many different domain experts that are going to be talking about all this. Conceptually too, we look at kind of our systems that we use are kind of isolated. They have information in them. There's many different use cases around them. This is from the BIM side, for example, but we're in silos. We've talked about these silos for years. We've talked about connecting the silos with open standards. We need to have the same data going from whatever operations and maintenance, feeding off the building information model for design. You can use APIs to connect it, but digital twins are really about connecting systems. The system is system, and the applications become disposable in many ways. So you want to be able to support the many types of users that are asking those questions to get information from many different systems, even systems that don't exist today and go into the future. And the flexibility of that is so critical to be able to cut across the silos. And we've been talking about silos for years, but I think this is getting closer now with kind of an effort to kind of have that conversation about how do we make it happen and have the technology. And that's what the BIM Storm is going to be at the Digital Twin Conference next month.
And the important thing here is for the owners to realize that they have to specify or establish an RFP with different criteria. Previously, the organizational mentality is, we're big, we want one big company to match us and solve all of our problems. And that's just not the way the internet works. And if the internet is the tool that we're going to be leveraging, we've got to kind of work the way the tool works. And that is by allowing integration of the latest, best process, as opposed to being stuck with one legacy process.
Exactly. If anything, that would be a really great outcome from this conference is coming up, to get because the owners do have to ask that. If they don't ask the right questions, you basically start repeating the same method from the past. And in fact, the work with DHA and VA, Russ Manning at DHA even described this, that owners and agencies are constantly struggling with trying to find that silver bullet, that application that's going to do everything. They procure it. 5 or 10 years later, it's not doing everything you need, and you go out for another procurement trying to find that magic single box. A digital twin is not a single system. It's many systems that are connected together. So we're kind of flipping it around, which makes it much more valuable to owners, as long as they ask the right questions and they contract the right way to make that a requirement relating to open standards and interoperability to move data across any system.
Roger, do you see owners beginning to understand that more?
Oh yeah, I think the appreciation is there increasingly. I think the challenges remain because you have to, yes, you want to break down silos, but specialization is also fundamental to how we get things done. So how do you bridge that transition? That's a challenge for owners. They have legacy systems that they need to continue to operate. They have new systems they want to bring online. They have people who have skills that have been evolving over the years. So there's a lot of challenges, but there's a lot of opportunities. And I think the way we think about those things really helps. Having better technology to address these, to address these challenges, to break down the silos and reach into them and pull out the right pieces of information is evolving. Certainly, I think having a focus on process, like you said, Mike, and also being more, accepting more in our industry, the need to maybe follow rigor from other industries, like where the focus has been on identifying use cases and how do we identify, at a operable level what it is we're trying to accomplish, and how do we bridge the project world and the operations world in organizations. And when I look at the agenda for the conference, there's a lot of really interesting opportunities. I mean, yeah, we're not going to solve these problems, but part of solving them is understanding them. And we've got some great owners with significant portfolios and different kinds of portfolios on the agenda. People from Department of Defense, VA, Smithsonian, a few federal owners kicking it off. We've got people, Dallas Fort Worth International Airport represented, the city of Ithaca. When you think about cities, so many things come together at the city level, and the digital twin for a city is something that's really, really can bring their challenges and opportunities to life at that community level. So I think there's a lot to be learned, and at this conference that'll help us to improve.
Excellent. Kimon, thank you for switching to some of those speakers, but also thank you for switching to the silo slide, which is, I think, kind of new to the Asset Leadership Network. Can you address what you're showing there?
Yeah, so like Roger mentioned, and we've all struggled with this for years, right? We have different silos. And the intent is not to merge all these silos into one super silo. And the IBB, Interoperable Building Blocks, the work that we're doing in the BIM storm and with Patty, is we're saying silos exist, that's a given. But if you use a digital twin approach, you don't have to understand everything inside each of those silos. In other words, if I want to get information from a CMMS system, I don't have to get all the information if I want to do energy calculation. And these blue lines here are symbolizing, okay, it's a very lightweight connection. One silo queries the other silo and says, hey, I'm trying to do an energy calculation. I need information about whatever work orders, or I'm trying to get into the BIM and get the size of the building. You don't have to understand everything about the full silo. And that's not an easy concept to kind of understand, because over the years we've kind of thought in terms of we need to take these two silos and merge them together, which if you look from a digital twin perspective, it's impossible to merge all the silos, but it becomes much more manageable to create the relationships. And that's what will be in the session at in DC or National Harbor. We'll be looking at these blue connections. We're defining the use cases very specifically and saying in this particular use case, that user story, how do we ask the question of these other silos, and what's the open standard, open connection way to query that and then create that answer that we're looking for that use case.
And I'd like to say that Patty is also an ALN organizational member, and you'll be presenting with Cyril Verlet, president of CDV Systems, and 26 Degrees, which are ALN members, and you're also presenting with NIBS.
Anto's going to be there too. Yeah.
Pardon?
Jay Klein from NIBS and Anto from Patty.
Yes. And then also from the NIBS committee, I forget her name.
Zara, Zara Goban, which she has a separate workshop just on use cases right after the BIM storm with Penn State.
Excellent. Well, we've got a lot of federal executives online here. Hopefully many of them are in the DC area and will be able to attend, but is there any web process of this, Roger?
There's not a real-time virtual version of it. Just too challenging to do in the environment we have there.
Yep.
We will have the presentations, and we'll be making those available post-conference, but we won't be able to have a live or recorded version of the conference. So more reason to come and join us at the National Harbor and join the dialogue and help us as we, continue to work on how to leverage the virtualization of our world and what we can do to, use it. I think it's interesting that we've tried to do things beyond just, how do we take a BIM and add real-time information to it, because there's also sessions on resiliency. How can you measure resiliency of assets and help to prepare to deal with the consequences of natural disasters that might occur? Or how do you look at a virtual representation of the facade of a building and understand the implications of weather events on the building, or its ability to help reduce energy use in a building. So, I think it's as we continue to advance in our use of technology, making sure we have broad perspective on what needs to be done and how we can do it is, I think, important for us. And I think that's a nice benefit of this event, having all those perspectives.
Excellent. I think that's a wonderful summary. Kimon, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, maybe just in addition to being there physically at the conference, the BIM Storm itself, you can always jump in. Our website for the BIM Storm actually allows you to participate even remotely or before. So for example, a lot of the work that we're doing for the event is happening over the next few weeks in preparation for it. We're having workshops and preparation happening there. So there's another way.
Great point, Kimon. Will the BIM Storm be live from the event? Because I know we did that at NIBS last conference.
Yeah, that was actually a question that came up in our session a couple of days ago, where we were going to check with NIBS and see if we can broadcast live, which we don't mind doing if it's okay. But we'll announce that, I guess.
If there's anyone in the audience who would like to see that, throw in the chat, and you'll be encouraging and participating that way. And I also know that Kimon always records himself, his presentation. So Kimon's BIM Storm presentation will be available in a recorded fashion afterwards.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see. So bimstorm.com.
Yeah, bimstorm.com.
And we'll see in the chat is information about the event, the link to the website, so you can get information if you want to register. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my email address in the chat for anyone that has questions about attending of any kind.
Excellent. And we want to thank you again in NIBS for allowing the Asset Leadership Network to help you promote this and participate and have our members come and take a leading position. It's great to be collaborative with such a 50-year-old organization. That's great.
Ah, well, thank you, Mike. And we appreciate your interest and support in the things we're doing, and certainly we like to work together with you and your members. And Kimon, we work together quite a bit on different things, so it's nice to be able to come on and talk with people today. Thank you.
Excellent. And thank you, Kimon.
Thank you very much. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you, Nick. You want to close us out?
Absolutely. And I am going to take the screen share from you, Kimon.
Yeah, please do.
If you,
So thank you everyone for joining us for this final program in the Federal Asset Leadership Insights series. And thank you especially to Roger Grant and Kimon for their participation here and in other ALN events. And we're really excited for this upcoming conference. And I was excited to see a lot of ALN member organizations actually represented in the presenters for that. Anto from Patty and and more collect us with Cyril. It was awesome to see our members out in the world. I mean, this is the point of the network. So again, just thank you to all our ALN patron members, Jacobs, Mantech, Onuma, ABS Quality Evaluations, and CGI, as well as all our organizational members for helping make programming like this possible and for doing the good work out in the world. I really appreciate as well all the attendees today for sticking with us and for participating in the chat.
Excellent. Thank you, Nick. Thank you to the attendees for sure. A lot of federal executives interested in what's going on here. And from an asset leadership network point of view, I think digital twins can be the thing that helps people understand why they need asset management governance. And we'll have more. We'll follow up, I'm sure, after the event live. So, everyone, have a great Thanksgiving. We're very thankful for your participation and your interests, and hope you're celebrating with family and friends next Thursday. We will not be having a program. There's too many football games on. We can't do this. But thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.